Love? Well...
You ain't got love?
I don't really, yeah, but nah.
Oh, no.
That does my head in.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind when I think about love is...
right now, I guess it'd be family time at Christmas, probably.
I don't know, too many feelings, emotions.
I think about God.
Commitment and patience.
Probably compromise and loyalty and honesty.
Both of those makes love work, otherwise it won't work.
I don't know, because it's a feeling like you don't really get too often. It's sometimes special, not always.
I'd say God first because he's the utmost definition of what love is.
Love can be many things, you see, so if you love somebody, like, if you like intimate, like with a woman, that's different than is love like giving, you know, like charity and stuff like that, you know.
Women. Because I haven't got one.
You ain't got love?
I don't really, yeah, but nah.
Oh, no.
That does my head in.
I've got love for the family and friends.
Yeah, family, definitely. Yeah,
That's about it.
Okay.
Everyone caring for you, being happy for you. I don't know. It's like a strong, like, emotional connection with someone.
Something you love, take care. That means you have the responsibility to take care of them. Give them your love.
Family, friends. That's who I love. They're the closest people to me.
I mean, I love motorbikes, I love cars, I love Netflix, I love women, but they're different kinds of love, aren't they?
It was always that, it was a thing of like, the anger I felt after they licked me, I said, you're getting a lick back.
Sounds conditional.
Really?
I don't think that's love though.
Love. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie. When I was thinking about this, okay, one thing that kind of I took out of this year was the huge George Floyd, Black Lives Matter thing. And I was speaking to my dad, and he said something to me, and I was like, what? And like, obviously, a lot of people are angry at like the situation. You know, like there was a video on social media. One of the police officers was let out on bail, and he was in the supermarket, and a woman was like trolling him. So she was like following him around with the camera, like, oh, like you should be in jail, And like immediately I was angry because I was like, why is he out of jail? Like he let something horrific happen. Like, why is he out of jail? And my dad was like, yeah, but like, you need to love him. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, the guy that was kneeling on his neck, like, you're tasked with loving him. And I was like, yeah, but he's done bad. Like, look at everything, or the hatred, or the anger that has been caused from him doing what he's doing. How can I love that? How can I justify my love for him when all he's doing is causing a madness? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. Like, how am I supposed to love somebody that does so much bad? Like, how am I supposed to love people that sexually abuse other people? How am I supposed to love people that domestically violent in the house? Like, how am I supposed to love rapists? How am I supposed to love paedophiles? Because I'm sorry, I don't. Like, I don't think I do.
So the question is, can you love everybody?
Yeah.
Or
let me think before I answer that.
So in terms of you talking and listening about particular people we don't like, is love conditioned on what we do and who we are rather than the fact that we're just a human being?
I would say so, because I almost feel like sometimes what you do defines or helps define who you are as an individual. And it also says a lot about like how you've been brought up, who you are, your characteristics, almost like your moral code as well. And I feel like to hurt somebody or to abuse somebody, like I have to question your moral code.
Really?
Yeah, because it's like Like how? Okay, I can't. I mean, I haven't necessarily been in an abusive situation, but like me and my brother were talking about it the other day about like domestic violence in the house. I was like, how do you get to that point? Do you know what I mean? Where you're beating up your wife, like, or you're slapping someone around the like. What drives you to that point?
So I feel like with love, it's very over romanticized, if that makes sense. I feel like there's a picture painted of love, that love is perfect, love is great, you fall in love, or when you love somebody, or when you're loving towards somebody, everything will be fine. But in actual fact, like, love is very messy. Love comes with more thinking out of your heart than your head. And because of that, it can lead to you being in situations or being in places that maybe you don't want to be, or you're vulnerable. But in terms of like the domestic violence or the domestic abuse bit, I think love is always tied with something else. So it's never right, and I'd never justify it. But some may say, if you love somebody, you're going to protect them, or you're going to kind of not, okay, I'm going to use the word control. Not that control is a good thing, but you kind of want to control the environment. Let me come away from that situation and go to a different one. Say you have a child, and your child is the most wonderful child in the entire world, and you're going to put your child out in the garden where there's things that could hurt them. I think if it was possible, you want to put your child in like a little ball or a hamster ball, stay with me, that they can go around and do what they want to do, but they're protected.
Yeah.
And in the same way, I think some people, they'll say they love somebody, but want to control. So they see a danger, they see something outside, they see maybe that they could take money. And so say people control people's money in a relationship. It may not necessarily be because they don't love them. It's because they love them so much, they want to protect them from making mistakes. But I feel like you have to look at where your love is coming from. Like, look at the motives behind why you're loving somebody, or what you think love means to you.
So would you say then love is almost conditional? So like if you took your example and applied it to almost what I was saying earlier about like the whole George Floyd thing, like we love who we want to love because it's appeasing to us. Does that make sense? Like, for example, I don't know, like I love my friends because we have similar interests. I don't necessarily love somebody that chats bad about me because when we don't have similar interests, you're not, do you know what I mean? It's like you're not appeasing me. And therefore I don't necessarily want to love you. Same with the George Floyd thing. Like for me, that morally goes against everything I believe. So for that reason, I don't understand how I'm supposed to love you. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
How I'm supposed to accept and forgive what you've done, despite the fact that someone's life has ended like so abruptly. Do you know what I mean? Out of your like.
I think love does have conditions, unfortunately, and I think it's in everything or in everything. We kind of put a certain condition on the love. Now the why behind it is what I don't know, but definitely, like when you look at different things, love does have its conditions.
Is it supposed to?
No.
Would you say?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Have you heard of the concept of fish love?
Go again.
Fish love. Yeah.
FISH.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. No,
Talk to us. What's it about?
Yeah, I heard it once a few years ago, and then like in preparing for this, I kind of watched the video again, and the rabbi just talks about a young man, and he says he loves the fish. He's eating the fish. He says he loves the fish, and they say to him, "Oh, you love the fish, so you took it out the water, you killed it, you cooked it, and now you're eating it." And he said, "That's how much you love the fish, that you took it away from its environment, you killed it, now you're consuming it." And he says that you don't love the fish, you love what the fish is giving to you. You love that the fish tastes nice to you. And he was saying that a lot of what we call love is this kind of conditional or self-gratifying love, where you love what something can give to you. So it's the same in some relationships. We look at, oh, what can that person do for me? I'm emotionally unstable. Are they stable? Can they kind of balance me out? And he was kind of saying that, again, a lot of that is very conditional based, but not even just conditions based on who they are, but what they can bring to you. And he was kind of saying that how love is supposed to be is almost like, what can I do for them? Which is very kind of different to what we've kind of been brought up to know. And he says that a lot of people say that if you love someone, you give to them. But he was saying that those who you give to, you love. and it's kind of like the opposite way. And it was so strange because I started looking at my own relationships and like the own people I say I love, and I think, oh, do I actually love that for who they are, or do I love for what they bring to my life? And it's kind of like flipping it on its head and really kind of dissecting why you love something, or is it really love, or is it just, I'm getting something from it, so that's what I love. Do I love this person because of who they are, or do I love this person because, they make me feel good, or they have certain, like, they bring something to my life?
That's what, and that's probably why most relationships fail, because it's not a love in the bad times or when things get rough. It's what can you bring to me, like, and when that fulfillment runs out, you get affairs, like you get cheating, because they're no longer fulfilling, or they've already fulfilled, and now they're looking for something to add. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's mad. I still can't get around the concept though of having to love or finding a place to love somebody that has done so much hatred, and or like, do you know, people that are like consistently bad. Like, I can probably learn to love somebody that would be happy to like be forgiven. Do you know what I mean? Like, if someone did something wrong and apologize for it, like, even if it was something serious, like, yes, it would take me a minute, but eventually I could be like, you know what, they are really sorry for what they've done. But do you know that people that are repeatedly bad, like people that just get under your skin, or the people that just constantly chat about you behind your back, I'm like, so how am I supposed to find any place in my heart for you when you have nothing good to say about me?
But what if your love is the thing that changes them?
But surely that shouldn't be my responsibility. Like, surely that shouldn't be on me to show them love for them to then show me love. Do you see what I mean? If we all took a similar mindset.
Not for them to, not you show them love to show you love, but say somebody is consistently bad. Say they're continually stealing something, for example, and they've been told it's wrong, they know it's wrong, but they're continually doing it. What if you showing them love is what they need to stop?
Then they better go find someone that's going to show them love.
When you say showing love, what does that mean then? You're saying, how can I love them? What does that look like?
Well,
to
that's
you?
the thing, because I feel like in order for you to, let's just take the very essence of like being kind, if that makes sense. In order for me to be kind to somebody, I have to not feel a certain way, but, you know, there has to be like a feeling to go and be kind. Does that make sense? Because otherwise I feel like it's quite false. So like, if I want to show love to somebody, I would like think, right, okay, I don't know, if I wanted to buy somebody like some flowers or whatever, like there'd have to be that urge to be like, go and buy it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Whereas if I don't necessarily like someone, there isn't that natural urge to do something. Does that make sense? Or be kind. And I think kindness is a small part of the spectrum of love, but I feel like to start with somebody that maybe isn't lovely or isn't kind or has hurt people in the past, you start with kindness. But to kind of, I don't know how I could be kind without it being fake. Does that make sense? And then I'd feel like a hypocrite.
So are you saying they're only worthy of love unless, I know obviously we've been talking about conditions and stuff like that, but on a human level, if a person makes a mistake and they continue to make a mistake and we just call them downright bad, are they unworthy then of that respect? Are they unworthy of love? And perhaps maybe we need to define exactly what we mean by love in this context, because there's so many different layers and definitions of what kind of love we're talking about. But when we're talking about people and them doing us bad, I remember I've just left a job and I hated it. Going off topic a little bit, and as you guys have been talking, I've been thinking, when I think about God's love, I don't think of it as being conditional, because he's always talking about how he loves us from, the nth of the world, and how, he gave his son for us. And I had a moment at work, and this person was really, really rude to me, and I mean rude, out of order. And they walked away and I thought, nah, that person's rude, I'm not going to serve them again. And I was driving home and I thought, you know what? I have been a hero in someone's life. I have been a villain in someone's life, and I've also been a victim. And through life, we go through these different stages. We have interactions with people as we go through life. So to a villain, I'm probably not deserving of love or respect. To the person I'm a hero to, they adore me. They'll do anything for me. And the times I've been a victim, I've wanted that other person to suffer. I've wanted them to feel the hurts that I felt. So in terms of love, when I think about it, it's definitely an ebb and flow. But I challenge what it means when God says he loves us. Because if I can be all those three things, there are times when God loves me abundantly then. And if I'm that villain, there'll be times when God hates me. But because God is so consistent, in those three elements or whatever I will be, his love is consistent in what he thinks of me. So when we think about people and how they act and how they're around us, is it possible to probably look at them and think, maybe they're going through their villainous moment, or maybe they're going through their victim moment, or perhaps they're going through their hero moment. Because if we focus on human love, it'll always be conditional. But what about God's love to us, to the paedophile, to the rapist? Are they ever going to be in a stage whereby they are someone else's hero in a positive way, not a twisted way? Can they ever be looked at as the victim, so much so they are needing of God's love? Just a question.
I think that is valid, because the love that we're called to give to others it's almost like a discipline more than it is like the feeling type of love. It's not necessarily, oh, I'm going to love them because I feel good about them, or they make me feel good about myself. It's more like, okay, love others, and it's almost like just a practice almost. I know, like Zora said earlier, it's been very romanticized. So you're like, well, how could I ever
it's something
offer
extra
that?
special. Yeah, like you only get my love. You're special.
Yeah. So boiling it down to what it sounds very foreign, but maybe that's just because of what we've made love to be, or what we actually see love as. Whereas if we're called to love others, it has to be something that is possible. Otherwise, he wouldn't ask us to do it, and it has to be something that's almost different to how we're viewing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
So the question is then, what's the best kind of love? We're talking about different kinds of love, so what's the best kind? What's the best kind?
Okay, I feel like I will say this based on kind of hearing other people, but then my own experience as well. Okay, the Christian answer is like God's love. Do you know what I mean? Like God's, and it is like that is the best love. But like,
what other love is there though?
And well, God is love at the end of the day. It's true. But I suppose from an aspect of like, I don't know, let's call it earthly love, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I would say like romantic relationship, because I feel like whenever like Jake always asks like, Mum, do you love me? Like, or do you love me? Who do you love more? And Mum's always like, Dad, your dad. And Jake's like, yeah, but like I'm from you. Like, do you know what I mean? Like Dad's like, yeah, like a stranger you've married. Do you know what I mean? Like, but I'm yours. Like, but so do you love me more? And Mum's like, no. Like, it's your dad. Like, he's my soulmate. And that, like, in one sense, like, I get why Jake's asking, if you know what I mean. Because, like, logically, you would think, well, you're of me, if that makes sense. So, do you know what I mean? Like, likewise, if something's mine, I'm going to love it maybe more than it was if it was yours, if that makes sense. So, yeah, but then also from a relationship side of things, like, I tend to find being in relationships, like, they're always, if you break up, they're always a nightmare. Like the breaking up stage is like mourning the loss of someone. Do you know what I mean? Like you spend weeks bawling, and then you go through this period where you think you're just one independent person, and then you realize you still need them, and you bawl again, and then you spend hours looking at your phone thinking, shall I message them? Do you know what I mean? Then you block them on the socials. Like I just feel like you go through these stages, and I'm like, it must be deep. Do you know what I mean? Or even, do you remember people talk about like their first love? And you like people always say like, I've always got that like, do you remember people say you got a soft spot or like connection with your first love? And I'm like, that must be deep, you know? Imagine like 20 years later, you're walking down the street and you see like your first love and you're like, woo, glory. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
So you think
So
romantic
romantic.
love is the best kind of love?
Yeah, maybe from a feeling, probably like
Okay.
yeah, a place of like feeling.
Any more thoughts around the room?
Are there different types of love?
Mm.
That's just the question. I know we say there are.
Bro,
I was going to say,
philosopher.
what are the different types
Yeah.
of love? That was
Yeah.
where I needed to go. But
Yeah.
all I could think of was agape, which I can't give you a definition right now. So,
I think that just means unconditional. I think.
Okay.
Yeah. That's that.
Is there 4 of them? I'm about to whip out my phone, but
yeah, have a look, have a look.
Yeah.
But
one moment.
yeah.
Yeah, because it can't. Is the love different or is the relationship different?
Yes.
What do you
I think the
mean?
relationship's different
Yeah.
and how it manifests itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
Nah, I'm keep going.
Yeah,
I was
I need
ready.
more,
I
I
said,
need more.
whoa.
See, if agape does mean unconditional, I would have to slightly disagree with you on the romantic type of love and go for unconditional love. And whether or not I've experienced unconditional love is probably a different story. But from a place of when I know I've done something wrong, or I know I feel not worthy of love, and this isn't from my relationship with God, but say another human being, and I know despite how much I've messed up, this person will still love me or still tell me it's okay. And maybe sometimes that's not always in the form of a romantic relationship. That kind of unconditional love for me, I would say is the best type of love, because no matter how wrong, how much wrong I've done or how far I've gone astray, or even if, say if you break somebody's favorite thing and you don't want to take it back to them, you do everything you can to try and get the same thing, replace it. But I know that love between me and that person is unconditional. Or even if I come back without it, they're going to be like, it's okay. Like within time, I'll be able to forgive you. And I feel like that's not always within the constraints of a romantic relationship. So it's that I'll love you no matter what love.
But do you think that's, I suppose, to kind of come back on that, do you think that unconditional love is found in humans? Because I'm not going to lie, I can't find many good examples.
Very few. I could probably have one or two. But then if you were to ask me, am I still that close with that person now? The answer's no.
Yeah.
So maybe it's an unconditional but not forever love. It's very hard to find.
But then is that unconditional love? I don't know.
If it's not forever.
Yeah.
So there are different, thanks Google, there are different kinds of love. Some people say there's 12, some people say it's 8. I just thought I'd keep it simple with 4. Okay, guys? So the first one is agape love, unconditional love. First, we have the agape love. Sorry, guys. This is an altruistic, selfless, unconditional love. Some people would describe agape as a type of spiritual love. For instance, us Christians believe that Jesus exhibited this kind of love for all human beings. He was selfless and sacrificed himself so that others could be rid of their sins. He suffered for the happiness of others. And then number 2, they've got this eros. If I'm saying that wrong, I'm sorry. And that is like love. It's a physical love. It's associated with romantic, passion, and physical love. Another one, philia, if I'm saying that right, affectionate love. In other words, it's the kind of love that you feel for your friends. And then the last one is another word I cannot pronounce, guys. I'm just going to call it self-love. And it talks about how for some people that is self-love that can be associated with narcissistic and selfish or stuck on themselves. So there are different ones out there, but I guess in terms of what we've been speaking about, maybe agape as well as eros in terms of that loving relationship, as well as the unconditional and also the friendships as well that we have with people. So I guess depending on who you are, you might associate love differently according to those definitions.
Sorry, to go back to my question, and you know, it's interesting how it gave Jesus the example, because like the idea of agape love between like one another, like, is that possible? Because it is interesting how it gave the example of Jesus. Do you see what I mean? And some people would say like Jesus is a holy, well, he is, he's a holy, he's a divine individual, like, so he had that room for agape love. But is that something that we can have within ourselves? Because like looking at that, I'm not gonna lie. You know, when I found out like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie broke up, I was like, because I was like, do you know what I mean? That's like Hollywood's version of like, do you know what I mean? Like the ultimate couple. Like even like Jada, not is it Jada? What
Will.
Will and
Jada.
Yes, like those two. I said, we're going up. What was it? There was a kerfuffle in the jungle. What was it?
No, entanglement.
An entanglement. I said no. But do you see what I mean? I'm just like, I'm just like, surely, like you. I suppose maybe this is why we shouldn't idolize these people. But you know, you think you've got this idea of like agape love, or there's these people out there, but is it actually even achievable within us humans? Because I don't know. I just feel like there's always that condition, or there's always that like, do you know what I mean? Because I'm not gonna lie, Zara, like, we are good friends, but if you crash my car, fam, it's peak. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Sounds conditional.
You gave that example because I was thinking of friends, and I was like, say you have a friend, but if your friend continuously is standing on your heel, standing on your foot, which you do a lot. Just as an example, if you got a friend that is continually clipping your heel back, how many times are you going to take it before you're like, you're hurting me, get away from me? Like, I think as human beings, there's conditions, unfortunately, with everything. Even in like coming away from love, even in your daily life, there's a condition for me getting out of my bed. I get out of my bed every morning because I'm getting up to get paid. If you weren't paying me, I'd still be in my bed. Like, that's the condition. I feel like the condition in terms of why you cook is because you want to eat. I mean, some people cook because they love it and it's their passion, but majority of people, it's to feed something. And I don't know if I've come back. I'm so sorry. I don't know if I've come back to the question, but I feel like as human beings, it's almost impossible to love unconditionally because we're conditioned to need conditions. I don't know if that made sense.
I see where you're going.
It's almost impossible.
So do you think that's why we need God to give us an example of what that could look like? Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
Yeah. Because I think in our own efforts, as we are as human beings, as you've already said, we just don't like being crossed. We don't like being betrayed. So if we have an ultimate example of what that could look like, perhaps we'd be more inclined to try and love beyond our very own selves. Because trust me, there's some people I just do not want to chat to or help.
This is the thing.
Do you know what I mean? But if the call or the charge is to love everybody, like Erin has said, it means to go beyond ourselves. And the principle and the discipline is, even if it makes me uncomfortable, and guys, I'm not that guy. And if I don't like something, I do not like it. But if the ultimate example is for us to push past that internal person and to love beyond what we're capable ourselves, I think that's pretty powerful.
I was about to say as well, with the 4 different types of love, the romantic one is the only one we ever really experience or see. Like the only examples that we see are always the romantic stuff.
Yes.
You might fall into the friendship one if you get good friends around you, but a lot of people would have never experienced the kind of love that God has for us. And I feel like we are supposed to be that example to then show that to other people and say, this love is actually, there's another type of love, and this is, it's accessible to you. And just to kind of answer your question about agape love as well, when I just Googled it, it says, what is an example of agape love? And it says teachers, nurses, or people who dedicate themselves to others are expressing agape love. So you kind of, it's even like, I always think that people who go into like nursing and stuff, they're different type, I always call them a different kind of people, because in myself, I just don't know how you could like
do it.
It takes a lot. It takes something different, and I think that's what it takes. It takes that unconditional love for others to want to do that as your profession.
And it's almost in service of other people. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's when you think about that example, they're doing it to save lives, to help cure people. Do you know, it's almost a selfless love.
And it's regardless of who they are as well.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah. Because fam, this is the thing, right?
Be killing people.
Best believe coming with conditions if I'm a nurse, fam. But there is certain people like, I cannot treat.
You have a code of conduct.
And that's why you're a pharmacist and I'm a cleaner, amen. Because there is no way.
There's a code of conduct. Right.
But it is. I agree. Like when you made that example, I was like, fair enough. Yeah. Because, I rate just so many amazing people that do that type of job or work with, or like customer facing role. But yeah, I just think it's probably a thing of let's not make it an excuse. We may not be able to wholeheartedly understand what agape love is, but we, like you said, Jill, there is an example, and we can try our hardest to live up to that example. And I think, like you said, it's just about being uncomfortable. It's finding yourself maybe in sometimes those uncomfortable environments, and thinking, you know what, this would be a good time to express love. Like, it's not always going to be in our comfort zones. Sometimes we do have to rock the boat a little bit, but
I think as well for this year, 2020, we have seen a lot of people reach out for each other. And I think that should restore our faith and confidence in humanity as well. Like this year, we have pulled together as a nation, as a world, you know, to really, really try to be there for each other. So, yeah, I think this year is definitely an example of that.
I think you have to be willing to go into the mess or into the dirt or whatever it is, knowing that in order to show that person love or to be loved, you're going to get covered in what they're covered in. It's like going in regardless and like knowing it's not going to be easy, but doing it anyway, which is selfless. It's not, and it's not in our human nature to be like, well, it's not in mine. I'll speak for myself. It's not in my human nature to be like that, to do something without gaining something.
I think you can love from a distance as well, though.
I'm so glad you said that.
Just love from a distance, you know, some people are crazy. No offense.
No, but it's the truth. And just be like,
you know,
I appreciate you.
You need some help, baby, and I love you, but I just need to do
over
it
there.
You can, but then is that love?
I think there's probably wisdom in that as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
Potentially, yeah.
I suppose it's as and when as well.
Case by
I
case.
think you can love from a distance. I think so.
I'd like to think so.
I would really like to think so.
Just in my capacity of being able to love people. There's some people I just need to sidestep away
Yeah.
from.
Yeah, just for your own mental health and stuff. Because I feel like as well, when you start to pour out love, I think sometimes it can be quite, I don't want to say draining, but it takes a lot out of you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think there are times where you personally need to recharge. And I think if you're always giving of everything, and that's not selfishly, I just need some time to myself, but, you know, just some time to recharge. And if that's loving people distantly for a moment, I don't think there's any problem in that. But then also I would hope and pray that God introduces us to individuals that he knows we can be effective with, if that makes sense. I would like to think he would never put us in a situation that would overbear us. So if that means in certain circumstances we have to love from a distance, then I would say that's acceptable, as long as it is, like you said, it's not, I'm just going to say I'm loving them from a distance because I never like them.
Yeah. Is that relationship again though? Or is that, I'm not sure, is that?
That's friendships as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, 100%.
That's like, in terms of, okay, you love from a distance, in terms of, you wouldn't want to be in, it's almost like choosing the type of relationship you have with them instead of kind of whether or not you love them or not. That makes sense.
I see what you mean.
So you don't feel like you could be a close person to them.
So it's almost like, love is almost like, I don't even know how to explain it, but it's just like the general thing.
Yeah.
And then out of love is what you do, or kind of what you get, whether that be like relationships or distant love. But regardless, love should still be there. So it's almost like the foundation to everything else.
Yeah.
I think, in answer to your question, I think I've been in a friendship in particular, and it was not good. It was not good, guys. And I say that to say this individual needed a bit more support. Does that make sense? And sometimes you can give to someone and keep giving to someone, but actually that need that they have can be so all-consuming that you physically and mentally cannot support them. So when I refer to loving someone from a distance, it's being able to say, actually, I care for you, I want the best for you, but I don't have the capacity to give you what you particularly need in this circumstance. So I had to remove myself from that situation. That doesn't mean I stopped caring about them. But in terms of that physical and that emotional support that individual needed, they did need that professional help. So I think I mentioned that to say there may be people that are in situations whereby it's just you want to love them, you feel called to love them, and in a sense, you feel walking away would be bad or guilty for. And I just want to remind people that, yeah, we're all human beings, we're all deserving of love, but there are different ways in which that person can be supported.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily always you've got to be that person.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I found myself, oh man, oh no, just
I think
think about it.
there's wisdom in being able to discern
Yeah.
what relationships are good for you and what aren't
Yeah.
good for you at all. Yeah.
Mm.
But similar to what you're saying, like love might be the baseline, even though that sounds very strange.
Yeah, it
But
should
yeah,
almost be the
yeah.
foundation,
Yeah.
and then what we do from that is
Because even like we were saying earlier with the whole, how do you love people that you don't necessarily like, that keep offending you or keep treating you bad?
Like on our own, it is really difficult. It's really, really difficult. Like I remember it was years ago. We're talking about 8-9 years ago. Somebody did me something, and they did it quite publicly, and they apologized, and I was like, yeah, I accept your apology. But if I saw them, I was crossing roads. I was dodging cars to make sure I didn't speak to them. I would purposefully go out my way. If, say, we were both queuing for food, I wasn't hungry anymore. I would rather let my stomach churn than speak to this person or be in the presence of this person. And it took ages for me to even be around them, never mind speak to them and be civil. And I feel like that wasn't love I was demonstrating, but it was my innate human nature. Somebody does you something, you either want to get them back or just keep your distance and protect yourself. And I think in order to love people beyond their messiness, beyond how they've hurt you, and we're not perfect either.
Yeah.
So like for people to love us, that's where God's love comes in, because on our own, dare I say, it's impossible. Like
It's true. We've all
Very
been the
much so.
hero, the villain, and victim in someone's life.
yeah.
I think that's very important. I was saying that it's probably not natural on your own at all. I think something Josh was saying earlier, like you need to recharge to be able to give that out. And it's kind of looking at our source as well of love. Where do we get that source of love to be able to give that out
give it out,
to other people? Yeah. So we are called to almost keep that well overflowing. Like it's not enough to just be like, oh, I've got this much energy, I can give that out kind of thing. We keep having to go back to the source, get recharged, and then get enough from the source that we can then give it out. So God needs to be pouring into us enough forgiveness, enough love, enough grace, so that we can then go and show that to other people.
Yeah.
Something also is that God's love is not necessarily condoning what we do. We're going to mess up, but he still loves us, but that doesn't mean that he loved what we do.
Yeah.
And I think that's another, it kind of touches into what we were saying again about how do you love someone that you don't agree with what they're doing. It's like you're not condoning what they're doing,
Yeah.
but somehow.
You're almost seeing past the wrongdoing and trying to see the human just for who they are. Yeah. You know what? That's a good point.
But
we don't love people a lot of the time because of what they're doing and not necessarily because of who they are.
Yeah. But an element of love is also, well, I guess that's comes to the relationship, because I guess a parent and a child, that love is unconditional, but out of that love comes the discipline or teaching them the right ways. The right ways to go. Yeah. So not teaching your child isn't necessarily out of love. I guess you teach your child out of love also. Yeah. But in other relationships, you probably wouldn't. You'd have to kind of overlook that and see a different need almost. So okay, your behavior isn't something I can kind of gel with, but there's obviously some reason for this relationship. There's some need that I might be able to meet. Again, maybe at a distance, to be like, okay, yeah, cool, but yeah. But that level of love and forgiveness is quite hand in hand, like you're saying. I was watching it's almost a sermon series by a Transformation Church.
Yeah.
And Pastor Mike was saying that, like you're saying, this 2020, outrage has been the currency of the culture.
Yeah.
So we're very quick to get offended. We're very quick to go to outrage. But he was saying that forgiveness was like a fundamental and the currency of the kingdom. And how it's very quick to get outraged and be like, okay, there's no way I can forgive that person because of this. Like, I'm offended. And he was kind of saying that that's not what we're called to do. And again, it's very foreign, but we're called to kind of forgive before the offense. We need to keep going back to
The source.
the source, and understand, and asking questions and really kind of asking like, what you're asking me to love and forgive, but what does that mean here? What does that mean in this situation? How can I do that? because I don't feel like I can. Yeah.
And I think it's discovering how God loves us despite all our flaws.
Yeah.
That's the key.
It's humbling as well,
Yeah,
isn't it?
that's the key, because I think once we begin to discover how that love is still poured out to us, despite all the mess we make individually, we then can look to start loving other people the same way, because it won't be love based on conditions or what you're doing right or wrong. It will be love despite the fact that you are doing wrong. I can see past it and love you anyway. And I think that's a different type of love. Like, that's a love that we're not always used to. So yeah. Wow.
But love is messy, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you choose to love, that
It's a
means
huge learning
you're
curve.
choosing to put yourself in a situation where you're probably like,
Vulnerable.
very vulnerable. Yeah,
Completely.
yeah, and it's likely that some of the mess will get onto you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, I guess it's going back to the source and yeah,
I'm working it out.
yeah, being able to work through that.
But it's crazy though, because when we talk about vulnerability and how messy it is, the cross was messy.
Yeah. And that was love. Full stop.
Very layered.
It is.
Very
It's
layered,
mad. This
yeah.
needs another episode.
I know.
Part 2. Fab.